Welcome at Bits of Blockchain. In today's episode, we're going to talk about Cardano. And I invited Ronald Span, one of the co-founders of blockchain company Madelin Twente, to share his knowledge about Cardano. Welcome, Ronald.
Thank you, Peter.
How long are you active in the blockchain scene?
Actually, I'm over 3 years now active in the blockchain scene. My first experience with blockchain was at the University Twente, where I attended a presentation about blockchain. That drew my interest, and on basis of that, I started with Ethereum mining, and from there I developed basically my knowledge about blockchain.
Okay, but you switched from, not really a switch, but your Cardano catch your attention. And I'm sure in the presentation you prepared, you're going to explain why, right?
Yes, that's the purpose of this presentation.
Okay, so I look forward to your presentation. The floor is yours.
Welcome. I'm going to give you an introduction to Cardano. Well, now we are going into the topic, what is the Cardano blockchain? Well, Cardano is basically known as the Japanese Ethereum. Why? Because they issued an ICO in 2015 in Japan. And as such, they are known as the Japanese Ethereum. What are the big advantages of the Cardano blockchain? That is basically that it's being evolved out of scientific philosophy and research first driven approach. So instead of starting building something new, they started basically with research, and they researched the existing blockchains and the pitfalls of those blockchains and draw up basically a blueprint of what their blockchain should solve. And that's what they did. And for that, they made use of universities and academics and also people that have studied at the universities, which are basically on their daily basis working for big companies, and they verified basically these blueprints, and that means the project is being peer reviewed, and they are reviewing the code and they check the validity that has been done related to the research. Furthermore, Cardano is an open source project, and basically you can verify all the progress that is being done on this project via the GitHub repository. It's a project with clear goals and a roadmap, and it's written in a functional programming language, Haskell, that delivers the resilience necessary for mission critical systems. For example, systems that are used in aerospace, defense, and the financial industry. That's where you find also solutions being programmed in Haskell. Well, like I said, Cardano is solving certain problems of first and second generation blockchains. Like I mentioned before, proof of stake versus proof of work. Cardano is making use of proof of stake algorithm. That's an algorithm that is based on software. For this, you can run very small computers basically, and you don't need GPUs. To do the verification of a block to find out if the block is being tampered, yes or no. And well, this is one good thing, that it's very energy efficient. Basically, you can run the proof of stake protocol of Cardano on a Raspberry Pi or a Rock Pi. Next to that, it's very energy efficient. It also has much lower transaction fees than on the Bitcoin or the Ethereum network. And basically the situation like Ethereum is now, Ethereum users are now facing that the fees are very high because there's a lot of DeFi solutions on the Ethereum network. You will never face on the Cardano blockchain because the fees are basically being adjustable. Next to that, if you look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin is basically just being able to process financial transactions, but not being able to execute certain logic. For that, the second generation blockchain Ethereum was invented to be able to run smart contracts, to have automatic logic. But one of the negative things of the Ethereum network is that all the loading is basically being done on chain. So for certain processing or transaction processing, you don't need to do that on chain, but you can do that also off chain. And Cardano is basically delivering functionality to have on and off chain processing. And this means also, while you can do things off chain, you're not paying fees for that. Another nice thing about Cardano is that tokens are first-class citizens, or they are native. If you look at the Ethereum network, tokens there are not native. They are basically created on top of the blockchain. They are being treated differently than the Ethereum cryptocurrency itself. And this has negative influences basically on cost, because you're paying twice transaction cost. And next to that, it's also heavier on processing. So it's very important that tokens that can be created on the Cardano blockchain are native and being treated in the same way as the ADA currency, which is the native cryptocurrency of Cardano. And that means also there are no additional gas fees on top of the underlying cryptocurrency like they are on Ethereum. Another point related to a third generation blockchains is that they try to create different abstraction levels. So in this case, they are called multiple layers. And this means that certain facilities are not running on the same layer. For example, you have the base layer. The base layer is responsible for payments. And on top of that, you can have additional layers. And one of these layers can be a smart contract layer. If you look at the Ethereum blockchain, everything is done in a single layer solution. That means also, due to that, the traffic on this layer is very heavy. And the consequences of that is congestion, or at certain moments where there are done a lot of transactions on the network, you get basically the situation of a traffic jam. And during that traffic jam, the prices of gas are going up like crazy. Well, this is something that will not happen on the Cardano blockchain, because they have the approach of a multi-layer solution. They have a separate layer for the payments, and they have a separate layer for the logic. And there can be more layers in the future. This makes also that the solution can be better scalable, and that you can process more transactions per second, or parallel transactions. And as we all know, the first and the second generation blockchain have all problems with scalability, because they can only process a certain amount of transactions per second. And I don't know by heart, but I think for Bitcoin, that's below 10 transactions per second. And for Ethereum is something between 13 and 16 transactions per second or something like that. Well, for Cardano, that will be in the 1,000 transactions per second. And another part, of course, is because they could look into the problems that were related to security in Bitcoin maybe, or in Ethereum, they could develop a better solution for the security. Well, Bitcoin has been proven to be very secure, And that means also that Cardano basically took a little bit the road of Bitcoin regarding the security and avoided all the problems that Ethereum is facing related to their smart contracts and the vulnerability of that. So in general, they have a better security solution. I mentioned already, Cardano is using a proof of stake algorithm. That proof of stake algorithm is called Ouroboros. It's the first proof of stake protocol that has been mathematically proven to be secure to the level of Bitcoin. So far, there are many other blockchains that have a proof of stake consensus algorithm, but none of them prove them to be secure to the level of Bitcoin. So this is the first protocol that has been proven to be as secure as Bitcoin. The leader election process on the Ouroboros protocol is done on basis of a secure multi-party implementation of coin flipping protocol. So basically, there is like an algorithm on which a block leader is elected, and that algorithm is basically taking certain parameters in consideration, and that's what's called the coin flipping protocol. And so there's a part of luck involved to get basically a block assigned or to be elected as a leader. Another very important aspect, which most of the current blockchains don't have covered or will ever cover, is the resistance against attacks by quantum computers. Well, these are very powerful computers, and these powerful computers can quickly run through certain algorithms to solve a solution. Well, blockchain is basically being protected by cryptography, which is, let's say, a mathematical algorithm, and the mathematical algorithm can be verified very quickly by a quantum computer. And that means basically you need a post-quantum cryptography solution to be protected against these computers which are becoming available to the market. Because if somebody could break this code, basically all the transactions would not be protected, and that would make it possible for somebody to tamper basically the transactions. And well, we don't like, of course, when some fraud is happening in the central system where somebody is taking our money. Well, the same is the case for blockchain. We don't want these transactions to be tampered by a third party, which means I could lose my money. So that's what we don't want. I told already the situation about the third generation blockchains, that they have multiple layers. Well, in Cardano, it's called the settlement layer. That's the unit of account, or basically where the transactions are taking place. And on top of that, we have a control layer which runs the smart contracts. It can recognize identity, and it can also assist on compliance issues. The protocol of Cardano is tunable by settings of parameters. So this is the way basically the development firm, which is called IOHK, who is developing this Cardano blockchain, is able to tune the network to be decentralized, to prevent it from being attacked by the 51% attack, etc., etc. The Cardano blockchain supports native tokens, like I mentioned, and they are also providing an ERC20 converter. That means that basically users of the Ethereum blockchain can easily transfer their tokens from the Ethereum network into the Cardano network. Another unique aspect is that it supports metadata. And metadata is basically an option to record certain information regarding ownership. For the first generation blockchain, Bitcoin, this is not possible. For Ethereum, it is possible, but it has very limited storage. It only allows you to store 40 to 80 bytes. Cardano extended this to 16 kilobytes. So that means you can store much more data, for example, ownership provenance, intellectual ownership, or information regarding supply chain tracking in this metadata and store it on the blockchain. Like mentioned before, it supports post-quantum cryptography and is resistant against attacks. And one other very unique feature, which all the blockchains don't have, is that they are that they developed a hard fork combinator. And that means that they can easily switch from protocol version, from one version to another, without nodes being shut down, without nodes basically having to update their software version. So what they can do, they can easily transform from one version of the protocol to the other version of the protocol without any interruption. And this is quite unique for the blockchain space. Other unique aspects are the treasuring system. So by implementing this whole protocol, they made sure that the protocol is sustainable. So if you look at the situation of the verification of blocks and getting a reward for that, they have certain nodes available in their network that are taking certain blocks as well, verifying them, and the rewards of that are being added to the treasure system. And this treasure system can be used for all kinds of things. For example, like funding the development. And funding the development is not funding the development of the blockchain then, itself, but it's funding the development of an ecosystem. And these are basically partners or let's say enthusiasts that are developing solutions on top of that blockchain. It is basically promised that around the 10th of December of this year, there will be a DevNet launched. And one of the very important things is that it will bring an Ethereum virtual machine that allows for interoperability with Ethereum and that supports Ethereum tools and languages. Why is this so big? Because the majority of the blockchain community is currently developing on Ethereum. And they are using languages like Solidity to build their smart contracts. Well, now they can change over to Cardano blockchain and save a lot on all the fees they are currently paying for their solutions because the problems that Ethereum is facing. Another very important thing is regarding the strategy of Cardano. They are not developing just the blockchain for one programming language, but their main goal is to support all main programming languages. And for this, they developed together with a partner, ILE LLVM, basically also a virtual machine. And that virtual machine is being able to make the translation, for example, between Java and the native language on the Cardano blockchain. So this means that basically everybody that already has certain knowledge regarding programming can apply that knowledge and become a blockchain programmer. While currently, for example, with the Ethereum blockchain, you're only being able to use maybe 3 languages, and those are languages that not everybody knows. And so you have to learn that, and the learning curve is steep. And to avoid this learning curve, basically Cardano decided to develop a strategy to allow all kinds of programming languages to be adopted. And this is very important for the overall adoption of such a blockchain. If we look at the cryptocurrency itself, the currency is called Ada Lovelace, and Ada Lovelace was basically a woman that developed the first pre-computer in mathematics, and that's why the cryptocurrency of Cardano is called Ada Lovelace. One Ada Lovelace is like one with 6 zeros behind the comma. So that's one Lovelace. The total supply of ADA is 45 billion. If you compare that to Bitcoin, with Bitcoin you have eight digits behind 8 digits you have, and the total supply of Bitcoin is 21 million. And the currency of Bitcoin is called Satoshis. And basically, if you do the comparison with the number of digits, it means that the supply of ADA is 21 times larger than Bitcoin. Most people do the comparison between 21 billion and 45 billion, 21 million and 45 billion, which is not correct. Because basically you have to look at what is one Lovelace and what is one Satoshi. So with the current circulation supply, which is 31.1 million, 63% is already being staked. And being staked means told before, in a proof of stake protocol, we have certain nodes that validate the transaction. That's based on software. And to be able to validate transactions, you need an amount of stake. And that amount of stake is basically ADA. And from the total circulating supply, 63% is already staked within nodes, which are called stake pools. And they are basically protecting the network because they are validating the transactions. So still like 37% needs to be staked. That's not being staked, but if that's being staked, then the network, of course, will be super secure. But this is already quite large. So what is the goal of Cardano? The goal of Cardano is to be a different blockchain solution. They want to build the financial system of the future. So they want to be used by governments, by large governments, and they want to be used in certain countries where people are currently unbanked. And you can think about countries like Africa, for example, where not everybody is included into the financial system that is currently there. What is the status of the Cardano blockchain? Well, it's still under development, like all blockchains, but they have certain phases and certain phases of delivery. For example, they delivered the Byron phase already. That's the settlement layer, which we talked about, basically the financial transactions. Then they had the Shelly network, that is the decentralization of the network, and having the nodes or the stake pools available, and basically that people can stake their ADA and earn rewards on that. Now they are working on the Gogen or the smart contracts, and after that they work on scaling and on governance. So currently we are in the Gogen phase, but before going to the Gogen phase, I'll tell a little bit about Byron phase. The Byron phase is the settlement layer. It is the cryptocurrency ADA support. It supports UTXO transactions, and UTXO is basically the model that is being used on the Bitcoin network. What is UTXO? It's basically unspent transaction output. So every unspent transaction that is being seen as an output will be an input for the next transaction. And then in the Byron phase, they also developed a wallet where you can basically store your ADA or the cryptocurrency itself. And via that wallet, you are also able to stake your ADA or to add the ADA to a stake pool that is basically protecting the network. And on basis of the amount of stake that is sitting in a certain stake pool, that node is being elected by the algorithm to be a slot leader. And a slot leader means he gets a block assigned and basically should verify that block to see if the content is not being tampered. And if that's okay, and the consensus is of the other nodes that the outcome is correct, that stake pool will receive a reward. That reward will be split between all delegators or people that are staking to the pool and the pool owner. The Shelly phase is about decentralization, which I told you, the multiple nodes, delegation, incentive scheme, a reward scheme for stake pools, and extended UTXO. What is extended UTXO? Well, the default model of Bitcoin has not certain functionality because programming of smart contracts is not possible on Bitcoin. And for this, Cardano made an extension. So with that, you get extra functionality in this model for smart contracts. So that's basically extended UTXO. The community can run stake pools. So everybody can be part of the network and run a stake pool and earn rewards on basis of that. But if you don't have enough ADA yourself, you can join a stake pool and contribute to the security of the network. Further, there were done some Ouroboros protocol enhancement and some wallet enhancement in the Shelly phase. I will skip this one. The Gogen phase is about smart contracts. It allows technical and non-technical people to write smart contracts. They have two programming languages for that, or frameworks. One is Plutus, that's based on functional programming language Haskell, and Marlow, which is a domain-specific language to write smart contracts based on the Plutus framework that allows non-programmers to write financial smart contracts, because basically you're using building blocks which you can drag and drop in a user interface. Gogen further supports native tokens. That means we can mint new tokens on the Cardano blockchain other than the ADA cryptocurrency. That means also that we have a multi-currency ledger that is enabling users to create those tokens, fungible or non-fungible tokens, and they support basically creation of new cryptocurrencies and the tokenization of many types of digital and physical assets. And we will talk in a future session more about this. Further, they have the ERC20 converter, where they can migrate Ethereum tokens to the Cardano blockchains. And this, with the implementation of Gogen, which is being executed from this moment and the coming months, Cardano will have an enterprise level solution that is mission critical and can run decentralized smart contract applications. And that's going to be fully operational mid-2021. So what they are doing now is implementing the first additions, like the multi-currency, like the metadata. And for this, there is a series of hard fork events, which are being handled by the hard fork combinator in the coming time. What will happen after this implementation of smart contracts? Of course, most of the people will start building on Cardano, and that will give also Cardano some time to enhance their scaling capabilities. For this, they will implement the side chains with offloading of logic, so that the logic not always has to run on the main chain. That means the traffic on the main chain will be decreased, and of course the capacity of the main chain will increase. Further, this allows for further interoperability with other blockchains. Like I mentioned, they're going to start with the Ethereum virtual machine for interoperability, but that doesn't mean that it stays there. So they will interoperate with other blockchains. For example, there's already talks with Litecoin, for example, where Litecoin basically can make use of the Cardano blockchain to perform certain transactions where it's not capable to do it themselves. And this whole scaling mechanism is basically already developed, and that was a 5-year European-funded collaborative, which was called Hydra, and that allows Cardano to scale to millions of transactions. And this is comfortably in excess of current global payment systems. So the scalability of the blockchain was the holy grail, and Cardano is basically solving this issue. And as last, there is Voltaire, and Voltaire is all about governance. So in case you're working with a decentralized system and it's going forward, it's evolving, new functionality has to be programmed, participants in the blockchain, in this blockchain, can basically vote, give a vote to what this direction this blockchain is going. So, and that's what's called governance. And this means in comparison to a centralized system, well, we don't have a vote. If you look at our governments, the governments are basically deciding for us what they are doing, for example, in case of Corona. We don't have a vote in that. It's decided for us. Well, in case of a blockchain, you have a governance that will be implemented, and basically the users of this blockchain are deciding into what direction this blockchain is going. Of course, it's always a majority of the users, but better to have a vote than have no vote. And this will make Cardano basically a blockchain that is self-sustainable, and voting, etc. is done, and also for the treasuring system, what amount of money is currently collected from transactions in the system. It goes into the treasure system, and basically the users of this Cardano blockchain will decide what will be done with this money. And this brings me to the end of the presentation, introduction into Cardano. I hoped you saw some valid points why Cardano is very promising and very interesting in comparison to what is most known, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you all for watching. If you want to know more, below here are the contact details of Ronald and Madelin Twente. You can also ask questions in the comments below this video, and we will follow it up. And of course, if you like this video, like it, press the subscribe button, and we will post more videos on blockchain technology on this channel. Thank you.